there have been strange goings on. Does anybody in the audience know of anything personally? Spirits or strange happenings?
Just drunks.
Just what?
Drunks.
Just drunks. Well, you live right across the street almost. You know.
I was going to say Indian Joe.
Well, good. Then maybe our cemetery is very benign. But you know, thinking about cemeteries, because that's one of the places where most of us think that ghostly things happen. Did you know that there's more than one cemetery in Port Isabel?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, let me, the name of this community is so cool. Where's my, here we go. How many of you, that's behind, I thought I wrote that in
It's
here.
Illinois.
It's Illinois Street?
Illinois and Highway 100 right there.
It's Illinois Street that goes behind the shell shop?
No,
Yeah. That's what goes into the fingers.
Ah, the one that goes into the fingers, okay. The road that goes into the fingers, behind the shell shop. How many of you have ever noticed a little cemetery back there? It's just a tiny little plot. It's beautiful, okay? Unfortunately, it's all overgrown, but that lends the charm. That cemetery belongs to the old Mexican town of, and help me with my pronunciation, Palargana. Palargana, all right? That was west of Port Isabel. At one time, it was Point Isabel and Palargana. And that was the Mexican settlement, right? Here at Point Isabel. And so that is the cemetery that the citizens from that little community used to bury their others.
Debbie Linda Seidness is here, kind of part of her relatives are there.
Tina owns the property.
Yes, and I keep looking at her to see if she's staying awake because I know she knows. And two Rod Bates told me about another cemetery that's said to exist on the southwest part of Old Port Isabel, that when they were putting in some of the storage buildings for the port, that a contractor had plowed under inadvertently, but they'll never know. So, I'd love to talk to those people to see if there's any angry spirits. Has anybody ever heard of any other burial grounds or cemeteries in the area? No? Okay. You need to help me. I'm still in research. Now, I'd like to draw your attention because we're going to take a tour of Port Isabel, and we're going to kind of go in a circle. And we're going to start at Port Isabel's north side, okay? We all know that in Port Isabel, and of course the cemetery on Houston Street here, the Port Isabel Cemetery, is old and it's on the north side. You guys can't see it, sorry. But I want to find, actually, you know, Alta Vista. I'm going to bring up these things. So that's the Champion. Okay.
No blizzard.
All right. Yeah. Forget it. You know, they just don't want me to show that.
That's the ghost.
Exactly.
The ghosts are after you.
They must be. All right, now I've got a fun building for you. Look at that. I can't believe this thing is not working the way it should. It's just bothering me. I don't have the yacht club in here. All right. I'll just show you. Oh, here we go. What does that say? Yes, this one I'll bring up. There we go. Okay. This is an example of some early architecture on the North Shore. And because I don't have a picture of the yacht club, but I wanted to bring up a Spanish. I wanted to bring up a Spanish style house.
Wasn't that the old houses?
Yeah, it's that three-story that the doctors started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't have a copy. I don't have a copy of the.
Right.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's over here at the Champion Building. Sorry, guys. But I'll bring up one of these. Here, we'll put on Alta Vista. There we go. Okay, and I want to talk about that in a few moments. Okay. The North Shore, or the north side of Port Isabel, has a lot of really neat old structures. I have up behind me a picture of the Alta Vista apartments. they're right behind the building that I wanted to talk about first, which is the Yacht Club. How many of you have been to the Yacht Club for dinner or to visit? Oh, great. I'm happy to hear that. How many of you have taken the time when you've gone there to notice the photographs, the old photographs?
Yes.
The bathing beauties, the tip contests, and all that kind of stuff. And it's really a neat building, and you can imagine a social life here in the valley that was actually quite extravagant, wasn't it? Bayview and Port Isabel had some really neat people. Well, anyway, there are some things that have happened, and legends and rumors about the Yacht Club building. It was built in 1925, and it fell into disrepair, didn't it? And it was closed for a long time. It was purchased in the 60s or 70s by Richard Franke Sr., and then it was subsequently restored, and it had a few owners, and now it's owned by John Allen. I talked to Ron Spires. He never had any experiences with ghosts there, but you know, mostly guys don't. But when I talked with Rod Bates about the Yacht Club, he said that he and his childhood friends in the 1960s would break in like everybody else broke in and play in the bell towers. And you can envision there's one rounded bell tower, and then there's another tower with kind of a flat roof. And I don't have all the details on those, but they would play up there and make forts and all that kind of good stuff, but they would never go up there alone. As Ron put it, you never went up there alone because the ghosts would get you. And Rod referred back to Richard Franke Sr., who purchased the building, and during the time that it was abandoned and boarded up and falling into ruin, it said that shrimpers who didn't have a home, transient types of folks, would go up there. And they reported, apparently to Mr. Franke or to someone that Rod knew, that they had problems with ghosts up there, and they didn't recommend that as a
Probably
flophouse.
because they were on wine.
Having
The old
hallucinations.
winos that hung out there.
Well, we're going to get to wine
No telling
and
what
liquor
they
in a
thought.
moment, because you guys are probably going to help me out with these other legends that are coming up. But anyway, I talked with Lisa, who is currently the desk clerk over at the Yacht Club, and she said that she knows of wait staff who have had experiences. One woman who was a waitress, who was a desk clerk who used to work there. If you go to the Yacht Club, you know that the first dining room to your right when you go in from the hotel lobby is an older dining room, and the back room has been added on, so it's newer. And so there's a restroom also in the old dining room, okay? Well, this young lady was using the restroom and was tapped on her shoulder and turned around, and nobody was there. Kind of like you're not really there, right? And waiters who have been working in that dining room have had their aprons tugged on. Now, not from an adult, but from a child. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but two waitresses brought out a Ouija board once. How do Ouija boards make you feel? Creepy? Creepy? Who likes them? Nobody. They're kind of creepy. I don't know. I've never had, yeah. Anyway, the whole idea makes me creep, okay? So these two waitresses asked the Ouija board all these questions, and the Ouija board apparently answered that it was a little girl between the ages of 7 and 9, and we don't have a clue as to her identity. But even now, wait staff will get their aprons tugged on, especially the cute guys. So maybe it's a little girl that wants to play with them. Or maybe it's an older girl on her knees. Who knows? So, didn't find out too much about the Yacht Club, but I'll bet people could help me uncover more stories if we really tried. The Alta Vista Apartments. Now, that was built in 1927. And like the house that I showed you originally with the blue roof, that was built with apparently some ruins from the original Yacht Club. Maybe you guys could fill that in for me. But they're all built in the same architectural style, and apparently the same architect designed and helped to construct these. Loretta Sumega is the current owner of the Alta Vista Apartments. They're directly behind the Yacht Club on Polk Street. And people had told me to talk to her because they said that this old building had a lot of things that were going on. I have to read you Loretta's email to me in response to my questions because she did such a charming job of it. So bear with me. Alta Vista, an old Spanish building filled with mystery and intrigue where many things have happened over the years. If walls could talk, they would tell you of happiness and sadness, of divorce and marriages, of births and deaths, even attempted suicides, and one successful suicide, or was it murder? Sometimes cool breezes touch our skin. We hear crying in the night. We see shadows crossing the room, and lost objects appear in another place. Right, Maxine?
Right.
She tells me about a boy named Mike who lived in one of the units, and he had a cat named Sea Cat. This is sad. He was a sweet, happy boy who worked on the boat Harbor Light as a dockhand. And every afternoon he would come home from the docks with a treat for the cat. And you could hear him whistling. And as he came near, Sea Cat would run out to the curb and wait for him. Oh, cat lovers, doesn't this just tear your heart? Mike would scratch Sea Cat behind his ears and then on his tummy. And then he would proceed to his door. We would give Sea Cat his daily treat of fish. For many days, Sea Cat ran to the curb and lay on his back for his petting. And then he would run to the door of unit number 3 for his treat. And Mike never came again, at least not in person. But in spirit, because Mike drowned in the bay. But Sea Cat continued to wait for him every day. Sometimes you can still hear Mike whistling. Cool story, right? Well, knowing the people that live there in Loretta, they probably gave Sea Cat a good home, right?
That's one of
Yes.
Irene's cats, probably.
Pardon me?
Irene's cats.
One of Irene's cats.
In those years, was there anything on the island other than that old Coast Guard station?
Oh, yes, there were some fishing shacks. Was in the 20s, was there any other structures on the island?
Oh, yeah, there was a casino
Basement.
hotel.
There was the hotel, which is now where the Radisson is, right?
Right.
Was that the one that was still there? And then there was another building a little bit further up the street that has been there for a long time. And I don't remember the name of that
Still
building.
there, isn't it?
It's still there. It's kind of been remodeled, and you can't recognize it anymore. But what was that old place called? The Palmetto Inn or something? No, not the Palmetto Inn. What was that old hotel called?
Miramar.
You thinking of the Miramar?
Miramar, but there's an
But that was
older
after the
one.
I don't think it had a name.
There's an older one that the Radisson
Yeah,
is
it's the
built
Radisson,
around.
it's the Sea Island.
Yeah, Sea Island is the oldest one as far as I know, right?
That's still, yeah.
And it's still there. So
Yeah, no.
that's lower, 1 or 2 story building on the north side of the Radisson complex is really where the Sea Island is. And it's just been renovated and remodeled all these years. And how did people get across the causeway?
Boat.
By boat. So this was a great place to get away and camp. It was really roughing it back in those days. Now I want to talk to you about this house. I love this house. I've been inside of it. It's got all kinds of nooks and crannies and twists and turns, and it's a really interesting house. This house at 818 North Shore is referred to as the Smith House, according to Terry Castle. Terry Castle and her husband Jay.
School librarian. Remember?
He was the school
But it was
librarian.
the old Housen's house.
Yeah, to start with, but the
Right.
Smiths,
Yeah, and then the
you know,
Smith
lived
house.
there for years.
And
Doesn't
who
Bill call
actually?
it the Blue Cross?
Well, that doctor, yeah, that redid
Because
it.
of the Blue Cross.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. uh-huh.
But it was a doctor from, I don't remember, he's
Totally
from Brownsville or where,
Brownsville.
that came and added
Renovated
that
it.
3rd story
Yeah,
to it. It
right,
did not
yeah.
originally have that
No.
top story, and he added that and put all the blue tile and stuff. It was never like that
No.
until he did it.
Well, I'll tell you what. This house has the most animated happenings over. See now where you sitting, because I'm not calling them ghosts. Has the most animated happenings of anything. And Terry Castle, who is a highly animated person in
Yes, she is.
itself,
It's an
told
understatement.
these stories so vibrantly to me. I just have to. Anyway, so this house and the house at Alta Vista Apartments were built about the same time. Terry and her husband moved into the house in 1996, and they began an extensive remodel. And they used a neighbor, his name is William Hayslip, as their architect in the remodel. But the first occurrence of odd activity wasn't until 1997. Jay was home alone, and Terry was up in Oklahoma visiting her family. Jay called Terry to tell her that he heard women's laughter from the upstairs bathroom. It went on for quite some time before he called Terry. Terry said, "Are you frightened?" He replied, "No, they sounded like they were having fun." Now why would they be having fun at that address? I got to show you something else that we know. Right next door, you got it. Right next door to Terry's and Jay's current restaurant home is this little house, and this has been remodeled recently.
No, that's the, yeah, it's done.
Dunn's.
And that was a house of ill repute at one time? Is that
A
what you said?
prim little English lady
Oh, sure.
named Catherine Dunn in the 1950s converted her garage into a bar and a dance hall. And the carryings on apparently were quite rowdy, okay? Because it spilled over into Terry's and Jay's house and who knows where else, okay?
Where was David?
Well,
was an
David
invalid.
must have been with, I mean,
Yeah.
she said that Kathy and her husband, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know us Episcopalians went over there and partied all the time, but I didn't know.
Well, remember,
One of our leaders.
Terry Castle has a way with words,
Right
and she
on.
can spin a yarn, okay?
Yeah.
So this is probably, all those Episcopalians, this has been blown way out of proportion.
Having our silver tea over there.
Silver tea. But anyway, I need you to know that even though this house is now, Mrs. Dunn passed away a few years ago, and the family decided to keep the house, and so her sons now have ownership
No, it's a
of the
niece,
house.
I think. It
Yeah.
isn't, she never
Isn't
had
having
any
Or
children.
nephew, I'm sorry.
it's a
The
niece or
nephews,
nephew's
yes,
son,
the nephews, I'm sorry. Yeah, the one nephew's from Metairie and another nephew lives in England. And so they've decided to keep the house. But it does have that reputation among the oldies.
I never
And-
knew
Well,
it.
they were swingers, though, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
And,
Early day swingers, you know.
And some of you know Melba Barrientos, who is a Spanish teacher. You know Melba, right?
Yeah.
She grew up in a house across the street, and she kept insisting to Terry that when Melba was little, she said, "And I know there's a secret passageway somewhere in one of those houses." Well, Terry and Jay
Only
have
about
a
3
third.
rooms.
Yeah, Terry and Jay. No, she said across the street, like in Terry's house, because that's that 3-story.
It's not
Let's go
across
back
the
to
street,
Terry's
it's right
and Jay's
next door
house
to it.
because
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
but she's talking about Melba, the school teacher.
okay, this
Junior high
house.
coach
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That lived in the.
Has a lot of small rooms, cubby holes, turning staircases, and little lofty types of things. And it's got lots of nooks and crannies and a lot of really interesting stuff. But anyway, Melba insists that there's some kind of a secret staircase here. Actually, this house does have a little back staircase that to a child would probably seem like a mystery staircase. But there's more notoriety in this house. Let me tell you this other one. You know, Terry and Jay were used to a lot of noises because this was an old house. But the next story that Terry told me is very, very weird. Anyway, normal noises, normal knocking. You know, we all have to get our houses fumigated for rats and whatever because of our being on the water. But Terry went out one day, and there's this flea market or this yard sale place in Los Fresnos, and Terry found a beautiful little antique coffee table, and she purchased it, brought it home, put it in the living room. Over the course of 6 months, the table was moved every morning or upended. Finally, Terry went downstairs one morning. The table was missing one of its legs. They took a leg. She never found that leg. needless to say, the table was removed from the house. And couldn't you imagine some goes, oh, that used to belong to so-and-so, and I never liked her. Wham, wham, wham.
I think I'd put the house for sale and get out of it. That'd be what I'd do.
Or quit nipping the one.
Anyway, Terry got rid of the
Yes,
table.
Terry may have imagined some of this.
Another big story of Terry's was once when Terry's and all this stuff happened within the last few years. The cookies. Jay's parents were visiting, and they came to pick Terry and Jay up for dinner. And as the four of them were standing near the front door greeting each other, all of a sudden a pack of Chips Ahoy's cookies flung themselves off the refrigerator, which was in the kitchen more than 10 feet away, and landed near the front door. Can you explain that? We don't get winds, we get strong winds, but not that strong. So that's another one of Terry's little things. So anyway, the mischief makers have settled down over at Terry's house, and especially since we had what she calls the tornado, because on that end of North Shore in May of 2000, when we had what the Weather Service called a wind shear, we suffered some pretty extensive damage on that end of town. And including Terry, she said the entire old 1925 skin of her house was taken off, and she had to do some extensive renovations. Roofs and other buildings were done. So again, she said she called on all the angels that she knew about to come and protect her while she was sitting through that wind alone. So they've all kind of calmed down since that. Another picture of a house in the same neighborhood, and again, we're going to get some giggling from the girls over here. But this one here. Where's this?
Oh, the Patches old house.
Yeah,
That was the Lanes.
Hawkinson's. Well, yeah.
Patches.
Lanes built it, yeah.
This widow walk, according to Terry. Oh, come on, I love her imagination. Was used in the Prohibition. Now, I haven't talked to Bill Hayslip.
No, it wasn't built then.
It wasn't, okay. But it was also a good lookout tower for the ball. Maybe when Catherine Dunn had her
Yeah,
little
I think
house
they
of Bill
were.
reviewed. I don't know.
But the last people live
But anyway, whether these stories are true or whether they're just fiction or whether people were drinking some wine when they told them, they're entertaining, right?
Right.
Okay, that's what we're here for, some entertainment. And then we have,
That was different 50s.
Where is that house?
this house is on
Shore.
913 North Shore.
Right
Yes,
close to the
uh-huh.
Episcopal Church.
It's real close to the Episcopal
Yeah.
Church. I think it's the first house east
Yeah, the
of their
little wooden
lots.
house is gone that was.
Yeah, the little wooden house
Yeah,
is
the
gone
hippie's
now.
house is gone.
Never had a door used.
No, that's true. That probably could tell you stories if
Yeah.
our house was still there.
They didn't even have a door on it.
But that one was built in the 50s, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the Hawkins, remember, Madeline and Clarence Hawkins lived there.
My
when-
home was
And
built
now-
in the 50s too.
Whoa.
And now we go down the
you-
sidewalk to the Champion Building, okay? The main museum of the museums of Port Isabel. And this is where we get into some really interesting stories.
This is Edward's story.
Oh, and I forgot the Queen.
Edward, are you listening to these?
He told me them all. He told
I
them all.
know, I know, that's what.
And Maxine made up a couple that she gave me to say. Anyway, let me get those notes in order here since I've been doing all of this stuff. That's on this piece of paper here. So let me get that close. There we go. This is such a cool building, and of course you know this isn't the haunted part, but this is the part that leads up to the back end of the Champion Building. Do I have the other Champion Building here? I think so.
No, it was before.
There we go.
Right after I married.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That was a sign.
There. How's that, guys?
Good.
That way you can envision what this building is. A lot of you already know the history of the Champion Building and the Champion family, but it's the ghosts that fascinates some of us. Maxine was telling me when the Champion Building was renovated a few years ago, what was the date? About 90,
96, was it?
96,
Yeah.
7?
When was it that they were in it?
We've been open, what, 6, 7 years?
Yeah.
We opened in 97.
96
It was
It was
when we got
95 or 96.
Anyway, when the Champion Building was
95.
being renovated, okay,
95.
the muralists that restored the murals on the front of the building, Travis Keese and his wife, were working outside, and they had the front door, and only the front door to the Champion building open at the time. And according to the way Maxine relayed this story to me, apparently Mrs. Keese said to Mr. Keese, "I hear someone playing the piano." And Mr. Keese said, "That can't be possible. We're the only ones here. There's no other entrance open. You know, we must be hearing things." But no, she insisted, someone was playing the piano. So they went up together, okay, and could hear the piano playing, right? But when they got up to the top of the stairs, where the piano was supposedly being played, no one was there. So needless to say, when they wanted to go to the restroom or do anything inside the building, they always went together.
Was the piano still there at that
Yes,
time?
Yes, that grand piano, huh?
Belonged to seaweed.
Long,
I didn't
yeah.
realize it was still
when
there.
they were working on it, 'cause I helped work on it.
I'd still like to know what happened to the piano.
Maxine
The ghost
contributed another story about a workman who was there during the renovation period, and he went into a supply closet that was near the restroom on the first floor, the men's room on the first floor. And I had a picture of that too.
The men's restroom, how exciting.
The door.
Sorry, missed that.
Well, because it, you know, the atmosphere. But anyway, he went into that closet to get something, and the door slammed shut behind him. He couldn't open it. It was as if a weight was against that door, and he couldn't for moments. So he stood there in the dark and went, "Well, I'm going to stand here in the dark and see what happens," okay? Anyway, after a few minutes, he tried the door again, and he was able to get out. But how and why the weight against the door are questions that remain unanswered. Anyway, you can bet he didn't go in that closet by himself either after that either. Ed tells me that he's had a few experiences here. Ed Mesa, our museum director, for those of you who are new. And there's the restroom in the Champion building, the men's room. And I had a picture of that too, and a picture of her. But anyway, Ed has told me, others have told him that this has happened to them. You're standing there washing your hands. And he did this to me while we were talking about this. He poked me in the back. And then he said, or they pull you on your collar or on your shirt. And he said, that happens. And you turn around and there's nobody there. So what is that attributable to? Who knows?
The restrooms weren't there when they built the building.
But something
They
was
don't
there.